Hey everybody, as we're coming into the holiday season, I want to bring you into my kitchen and show you some of our family recipes. I know we have a lot of advanced and experienced cooks that watch my videos, but I also wanted to share some with some of the newer people that are just beginning to cook this year. Whether you've had a new garden come about and you don't know what to do with your vegetables that you've grown, or whether you have stayed at home more and had to learn how to cook. So I want to share my family's recipes with you. So let's get started. So as we prepare our Thanksgiving meals, one of the essentials that most everybody makes, and it depends on where you're from, is either stuffing or dressing. Now my family, we like to make dressing, but we like to make it in a crock pot. So that way it's not dry at all. And you can spice it up any way you would like to your family's liking. The first step in making dressing, the main ingredient is cornbread. So that's what we're going to make first. If you're a messy cook, don't forget your apron. So the ingredients we need to start off with for our cornbread, I use self-rising yellow cornmeal, and I use self-rising flour, 1 egg from the chickens, and some milk. Alright, you need to go ahead and preheat your oven. Cook mine at 400 degrees. So go ahead and preheat your oven. And then we need to get out our pan that we're going to cook our cornbread in. You may also want to go back and look at my drop biscuit video, because I use a recipe of that also in this. But for now, we're going to make our cornbread, and you can either spray it with non-stick cooking spray, or you can do the way I'm going to do, and I melt my lard that I'm using in my recipe in my pan, just like I do for the biscuits. So this is how you do it. Now don't forget, we're just using, you can use lard or some kind of shortening. If you do spray your pan, a good heap in here, it's about a half a cup. If you do spray your pan with the non-stick cooking spray, you still need to melt your lard and put it in your mixture once you get everything mixed up, because that's what's going to keep it moist. This is going to go in the oven for just a few minutes until it melts almost completely, but not 100%. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and make up our batter. I'm going to go ahead and crack 1 egg since I got it in my hand. Alright, 1 egg. And then I like to use 2 cups of cornmeal. And then 1 cup of self-rising flour. You can do half and half, which is 2 cups and 2 cups, depending on the size of your pan. It just seems to work better for me to do a 3-cup ratio, where it's 2 cups cornmeal and 1 cup self-rising flour. And also, depending on the texture you like, if you like more of a cakey texture, you can use 2 cups of the cornmeal and 2 cups of flour. Or if you need to go less because of your pan size, you can go less and do like 1.5 cup to 1.5 cup. If you like more of the grainy cornbread texture, you can do 2 cups and 1 cup. 2 cups cornmeal, 1 cup flour. Or you can go up to 3 cups and like a half a cup of flour, depending on your preference. Some people don't even use flour in theirs, they just use straight cornmeal. So it's all in your preference, and play around with it. This is just a basic guide on how to get started. And also, since this is going in our dressing, we are going to want this a little more grainy because we're using also the homemade drop biscuits. So you want it to kind of have that grainy texture as we're making dressing instead of just all flour and it being all cakey. Alright, to this, we're going to go ahead and add, we're going to start with about a cup of milk. And we're going to mix this together. Now with cornmeal, you don't have to use as much liquid because it doesn't absorb it like flour does. Okay, we're at about a cup and a half. Let's just get it all mixed up. We really need to incorporate that egg in there, okay? That's why I'm using a whisk. You might want to use a spoon to get started first, and then you can come to the whisk. Make sure we get it all off the bottom. Looks good. You can see my consistency. Not runny, watery, but still kind of thick. It's just a moist thick, and you'll see what I'm talking about as you make it. Alright, let's check on our pan. Alright, you still want to see a couple pieces of the shortening in there, just to let you know it's not too hot. If it is too hot, we need to cool it off just a little bit, because as soon as this hot grease hits this batter, it's going to sizzle and it's going to start cooking it. I got to cool mine off just a minute. And I'm just going around in the pan. Alright. Pour that in there. And be very careful whenever you mix this up, because it's going to go around the sides of your bowl and you don't want to splash it on you because it is hot. Don't want to get burned. So just slowly incorporate it in, and as it mixes in, then you can go a little bit faster. Alright, we got that mixed in, and we're going to pour it in our pan. And I kind of go around and flatten it out just a little bit so it's all even. There you go. This goes in the oven. I say 15 to 20 minutes. We'll watch it. It'll be golden brown on top, and it may even crack a little bit on top. And that is fine. Alright, I'll bring you back whenever that. So here's an idea that I did that I wanted to share with you guys. As you go back and watch the video on making the drop biscuits and you make some, if you have one or two left over, nobody's really going to eat them or anything, go ahead and stick them in a bag, put them in the freezer, and save it for this dressing recipe. So if you have to go and make a new batch of biscuits, what we do is we make a pan, and then once they're done, we turn them over and take one biscuit out. We enjoy that later. But we take one biscuit out. So that's my measurement, is a pan minus a biscuit. And then the cornbread will be the whole pan of cornbread. So I've got to get these thawed out real quick, and we'll be right back and check on the cornbread. Alright, there she is. You see how it's golden brown around the edges? And if you can see in the middle, those peaks, they have a little brown tips on them. Alright, so now let's let this sit and cool off for a little bit so we can handle it. And then we'll be making the dressing. So for the dressing, I want to go ahead and tell you the rest of the ingredients so you can go ahead and be getting them out, just in case there's a little prep you want to do. I do have this in our fire department cookbook that we made a few years ago, and it's a family recipe that we put in here. So you're going to need 1 stick of butter, 2 cups of chopped onion. Now I'm going to use a ½ cup of minced dried onion, 2 cups of chopped celery. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of celery seed. Of course, your skillet of cornbread, 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, 2 teaspoons of sage, a ½ teaspoon of black pepper, 2 well-beaten eggs, 2 cans, or the equivalent of 15 to 16 ounces of cream of chicken soup, 2 cups of chicken broth. This can be bought or homemade. And the last ingredient, if you would like to put this in there, is some form of chicken or turkey. Now you can wait and put that in there later, or you can go ahead and make it now. In our family, we just leave it out altogether, and that way whenever people get their food, they can get whatever meat they would like to mix with it. I'll put the recipe in the descriptions below. If you just click the little down arrow, it'll drop down and you can find the recipe down there. I'll go ahead and type it out. And if you'd like to take a screenshot and print it out and use it for your own use, feel free to do that as well. So we'll be right back and we'll get this thrown together. So now it's time to get our crockpot dressing all put together. So we've got our crockpot base here. We're just going to put everything in it, put it in the cooking base, and turn it on. We're going to start with our cornbread that we made over here. It's now cool enough to handle. Now you can either do this in here, or you can put this in a bag and get the kids involved, get them to break it up. You can put a liner in this as well for easy cleanup. Alright, got it all broken up. Didn't have to be perfect. For the biscuits, let's get about 8 biscuits. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9. And these are going to go in here, get broken up as well. All right. Let me wash my hands off. All right, so these measurements that I'm going to give you do not have to be exact. With the liquid, it does depend on how close you get it to the recipe, because if you put more liquid in it, it's going to take more cooking time. If you put less liquid in it, it's going to take less cooking time. But you have to cook it at least the amount, or close to the amount that I give you for cooking time, because there is egg in this, and it will need to be cooked thoroughly to 165 degrees in the center if you want to test it, to make sure that egg is cooked all the way through. So let's get the rest of our ingredients over here and we'll get it mixed up and cooking. Alright, so we've got all of our ingredients out. The first thing we're going to do, after we've got our cornbread and the biscuits crumbled up in our crock pot, we need to add our butter, which is 1 stick of butter. And this needs to be melted because we do have to mix it in with our bread mixture here. So we're going to go ahead and pour that over there. And we like to also put a couple of tablespoons on top. So if you want to do like 1 stick of butter plus maybe 2 tablespoons, and I'll show you that at the end. Alright, the next thing we're going to do, you can either use 2 cups of chopped onion, or you can use about a half a cup of minced onion, and this can be to your taste. So we've got our onion here. And the celery, you can use celery if that's what you like. We don't like celery as a vegetable, but we will eat it with the celery seeds in it. So I've got about a teaspoon of celery seed in here. I'm going to sprinkle over this. Alright, let's mix this up just a little bit, just kind of fluff it up a little bit. We don't have to mix it too well just yet. It's a little hard to mix right now anyways. Alright, we just toss it around a little bit. And next we need our 2 well-beaten eggs. And these are from our farm. Well-beaten eggs go in, and then we need our soup. This is, you can use 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. You can use 1 can of cream of mushroom, 1 can of cream of chicken, whichever, as long as you have 2 cans of soup of your preference. Now you can also make your own homemade soups as long as it equals out to be 30 to 32 ounces, which is going to be about 4 cups. Alright, we've got 1. He's a fuzz on my nose. Alright, and then here's the other. And I'm just kind of spreading this out, make it mixing a little bit easier. Alright, we're going to stir this in. And you can do this in a big bowl first and then pour it in here, whichever you want to do. You've got a big enough bowl to hold all this yummy goodness. Because this gets sticky until you put the chicken broth in here. Then it's a little bit easier to stir. Alright. Let's go ahead and add our other seasonings. And we've got a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. And you can do this with or without this. A lot of times I don't have it and it turns out just fine. And then sage. Sage you can use to your preference. I'm going to use, it's about 2 tablespoons in here, maybe a little bit more. The more you like the flavor of sage, of course, the more you can use. Just don't overdo it. I would not go over 4 tablespoons of sage. But this is 2.5 tablespoons of sage. We'll sprinkle this in here. And then pepper. And you can add salt at this point if you want. I do not, because the soups have enough salt in them that I'm not going to add any more. And then the last thing we have is the chicken broth. And that is 2 cups. This is the point where the wetter you make it, the longer you're going to have to cook it. So I'm going to put in a little bit less than half this quart jar, because a quart is 4 cups. So I'm going to put in a little bit less than half, because this ain't quite full. And this is going to kind of look a little watery. to you. Alright, let's get it all stirred up real good. Make sure all the seasonings are well incorporated and well distributed through the recipe. Oh, it smells so good. I'm just flipping it over and then mashing it down a little bit just to make sure I get everything all blended up. Alright, I believe that is it, folks. Alright, I'm just going to kind of make it even. And this is where the extra butter comes into play. So here you see we have all of our dressing mixed up in the crock pot, just like I left you a second ago. And from here, we're going to take just a few pads of butter, which mine is softened, and we're just going to drop it all over here across the top. And this is not going to be mixed in. Okay. That's all we need to do. From here, we're going to take our bowl and put it in our crock pot base. Put the top on, and you can either cook it on high for at least 2 hours, or you can cook it on low for 4 hours. At that point, you want to check it and flub it with a fork just a little bit. If it's still too much water in there to your liking, just cook it just a little bit more. So I'll see you back in just a little bit. I'm going to cook this 2 hours on high and bring you back and show you what it looks like. Stick around. Here's our crock pot dressing. It's been 2 hours. Yummy. Oh my goodness. That smells so good. Let me get a fork. And you'll see that the butter has melted. And then you just want to check for consistency. I think it looks super. Super duper. This may be a little moist for some, and that's okay. You can just let it cook a little bit longer. And this may be okay for some. And if it is, enjoy. Ooh, that looks so good. Smells great. Alright guys, so there's you a crock pot dressing recipe that you can whip together in a matter of a couple of hours instead of slaving all day in the kitchen. So go out and make this for your family this holiday season, and you can make it for Thanksgiving and Christmas because they'll love it so much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys later. Bye.